Frugalsim videos are powered by Jetline Systems.
Hello YouTube, this is Frugal, and you join me at a really quite disgusting Shoreham airport in the Piper Arrow 3. Part of my review in progress, as I said before, in a fleeting Frugal, I want to try to get to 10-hour reviews, which is 10 hours in the aircraft before I actually do a full review. So this is review in progress, me trying to add on time in the aircraft, but also put the aircraft through its paces in various different conditions. This, of course, being pretty bad weather. So an IFR flight, a fairly short flight from Shoreham or Brighton City Airport to Southampton in the air. It's only about 30 minutes, but we are going to be doing things somewhat correctly, albeit working within the confines of Microsoft Flight Sim, which is a little bit flaky in places with ATC in particular. So when we get into Southampton, we're expected to land on runway 20, which means we're going to be flying to the SAM VOR, and then flying on its 038 radial for 7.2 miles before turning back to intercept the localizer on 110.75. Localizer is Indigo Sierra November. But for now, what we need to do is work through the checklist and get this puppy rolling. So, back in the cockpit we go. Hopefully those chaps outside wander off shortly. Parking brake, make sure that's set, which it currently is. So, done. Gear selector should be down. It is. Avionics should all be off. Let me just check on these. I am the worst. Yeah, see, that was on. Let's turn all these avionics here off. That one is currently off, I believe. That is off. Alright, so we're all good there. Mixture. Check my controls are good. Lean. Magnetos. This switch here is off. Battery switch now goes on. Check the fuel quantity. So a little bit more in the left tank than the right tank. We are using automatic tank switching. You see here, auto fuel selector. Run the panel within the Just Like Arrow, so don't have to worry about that, and it will go to the most full tank. So checked. Annunciator panel is all lit up. Checked. Battery switch now goes off. Flight controls, check that they're free and correct. Well, the only way I can really do that, realistically, somewhat, is to pop over here. Change the camera, zoom in, and we'll start wiggling some bits. So wiggling the yoke to the left and the right does the left and right wiggle thing. Pulling it back, pushing it forward does that bit. And the rudder is doing what it should do. So flight controls are indeed free and correct. Get rid of this, bring back the checklists. So I did that one already, and that one. Flaps are currently up. I can check down here. Yep, that's on the floor, which means the flaps are up. Flaps are 0. So checked. Elevator trim should be neutral, which it is. Checked. Baggage door is closed. Then we go into the exterior. So the control surfaces, well, we already checked those, so they're all good. The lights will say are good because they didn't really fail on the Just Like Arrow 3. Tie downs and shocks need to be removed. So over to the EFB here, shocks and tie downs. Remove. Tow bar is also removed. Engine oil door is closed. Oil quantity is checked. I don't know if I can do that in the cockpit. No, I can't without the battery on, so we'll say it's good. It is good. Cabin door closed and latched. Then we move into the before engine start. So circuit breakers, check they are all in. All of these here, and they are all in. Alternate air switch. This one needs to be in the up position, which is off. Prop now goes max RPM. Like so. Fuel selector, fullest tank, which is the left tank. There we go, and that is on the fullest tank now. Check. And then we can move into engine start. Now we're going to assume a cold engine because the weather is absolutely miserable. So throttle, open it 1/2 inch. Now this, I don't like this. If I check on the items here, it won't automatically move down because there's 2 sections on the before engine start. It is what it is. We deal with it. See, I can check it, but it won't just jump down. Battery switch now goes on. Checked. Alternator, which is the switch next to it, that goes on. Checked. Beacon goes on. That one. Checked. Navigation lights go on. That would be this wheel here, which is extremely hard to get to. See, I'm going to be rolling. Oh. Well, there we are. So they're all on. Now, I know it's lighting up this stuff here, but if you look real close, it does actually say nav lights and rad lights. I don't know if there's 2 wheels here. I only see 1 wheel. Turn these on too. Oh, that's going to give me lights over there. Okay. We'll say that they're on and hope that they are. Done. Fuel boost pump on. Now we want to increase the mixture until we see fuel flow. So fuel flow is, if I can get a good view of it, here. So we're going to increase the mixture until we see that peak, and then we're going to cut the mixture off. So mixture all the way rich. There's our peak, and then cut the fuel off. So done. Prop. Clear. Well, kinda. There are guys wandering around, but I can't do anything about them, unfortunately. Clear. And then we're going to start the engine. So pop on down here. We're going to go ignition start and rich on the mixture once the engine fires. By the way, this flashing light, somebody in the comments on a previous video told me what that is. I don't know what that is, and I don't know how to turn it off. So we're going to have to learn to live with that, I'm afraid. So, all the way to the right onto both. And there's the mixture going full rich now. So, done, 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 and done. Adjust the throttle RPM to 1500 RPM, so a bit more throttle there. There's our 1500 right there. So that's done. Oil pressure. Here, it's in the green. So that's done. Good stuff. And then on to taxiing. So landing lights at this point are as required. We do actually want the landing light on. Avionics now can go on. So we'll move this one. Now, incidentally, this is the volume as well for the comms. So if you're going to be using ATC, you need to turn this up or you won't hear anything, which is a nice touch. So that one's on, that one's on. Let's pop on over here to the rest of the avionics stack. That's on. My squawk codes here, standby on, that's on. I think we're all good. So avionics are now on. Radios are not set. We will go ahead and set them now by talking to ATC. So if I pop this open. Now ATC is a bit of a problem in MSFS. I do have an IFR flight plan that has me cruising at 3,500 feet. ATC sometimes thinks I'm a jet and puts me at 10,000 feet, which isn't going to work in an arrow, but we'll do what it says anyway. So, tune ground. And we want to do request IFR clearance.
Shoreham Tower, Piper Golf. Bravo November Sierra Golf IFR to Southampton, ready to copy.
Piper Golf. Bravo November Sierra Golf is cleared to Southampton Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 20 right climb and maintain 14,000 feet. Departure frequency is 118.475 squawk 7445.
So obviously that's completely wrong. We can't cruise at 14,000 feet in an arrow, but there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately.
Piper Golf. Bravo November Sierra Golf cleared to Southampton Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 20 right climb and maintain 14,000 feet. Departure on 118.475 squawk 7445.
Piper November Sierra Golf readback is correct. Contact ground on 123.155 when ready to taxi.
So we're already on 123.155. Don't need to retune anything there, so we'll get rid of the ATC here. Radios are now set. Kinda. We are going to set up the navigation radios as well. So if we look at the charts here, we're flying GPS, by the way. We're flying GPS out to GWC, which is Goodwood, then out to Sam, which is Southampton, on the GPS. You can see down here it says GPS, right? But once we get to Southampton, we're going to switch on over to VLOC and use the VORs. So Southampton is 11335. Let me pop on down here. I'll get rid of this. It's actually already set from a previous flight, 11335, and then the second one we want is 11390. Nope, the second one we want is 11075. So we'll push the cursor, and that should be 110.75. Now, the course that we're going to want at Southampton is 038. So we'll go ahead and set that now over here. And of course, currently 0, so we'll set that to 038. Done. So that's all set up. So we have our two navigation radios set, ready for when we get to Southampton. I think other than that, we're all good. I didn't pick up ATIS, which is a flaw. Let's try that again.
Shoreham Airport information Sierra 1700 Zulu. Wind 092 at 25. Visibility 9er. Sky condition clear.
Temperature 11. Dew point 13. Altimeter 29.907.
Right, 2997. That's all set. So, let's go back to our checklist and see where we're at in it. So, radios now are completely set. Transponder has been set. Altimeters have been set. Heading is okay. Taxi area, I can't do anything about it. Parking brake release, then we test. So, we'll just check these so I can move on. And we'll go to the ground check next. So, we'll tell them request taxi.
Shoreham ground Piper Golf. Bravo November Sierra Golf with Sierra ready to taxi IFR.
Piper Golf. Bravo November Sierra Golf taxi to and hold short of runway 20 right by taxiway Kilo 4 Kilo 5 Alpha 5 Alpha.
My God, that's the longest taxi direction ever for the smallest airport ever. Alright, crossing runway 6, crossing runway 13 to 20.
Taxi to and hold short runway 20 right using taxiway Kilo 4 Kilo 5 Alpha 4 Mike cross runway 6 Foxtrot 2 Foxtrot 1 cross runway 1 Tree Lima 2 Lima 1 Kilo 1 Piper November Sierra Golf.
Oh my word. Okay, so that should be it. We'll release the parking brake now. Here. And come off the foot brakes and we should start moving. Now, one thing I don't like about the Arrow is the amount of power you need to actually move. Otherwise, it just grinds to a halt. It's kind of finicky. You get used to it, although I'm not. Let's begin a nice smooth taxi out to runway 20. There's a run-up area just before the runway, so we'll do our run-up checks there. Also known as our ground checks. The scenery, by the way, is Orbx Shoreham, and we're flying out to Orbx Southampton, again all in MSFS. In addition, the weather is being controlled by Rex Weather Force 2020, which is not something I've used on the video before. I am working on a review of that. It's kind of neat. Gives you smooth dynamic weather transitions. It's currently set to a dynamic weather preset, which is rainy day. It is raining and horrendous right now, which is why we're IFR, but it is due to clear up. I don't know whether it will clear up by the time we reach Southampton. We shall see. Alright, so this way crosses runway 13. Which I think is a grass runway. Now we're going to cross runway 06. Just trying very hard to be gentle on the throttle. Not let the aircraft run away with me. Looking at that windsock, actually, we're going to be taking off with a tailwind, which is not correct, but oh well. We'll manage. We'll do what ATC says. You can actually request a different runway with ATC, but I'm not going to bother. The wind is pretty gentle from what I saw in the ATIS readout. A bit more power so we don't grind to a halt. Now you'll notice the fuel boost pump is still on. That's normal at this point. According to the checks, anyway. I'm sure actual Arrow pilots are going to tell me that's not normal. What a murky day. Did actually suffer some frame rate issues. I tried this previously, and I ended up actually crashing on takeoff because I was having some severe frame rate issues once you load this much weather in and everything else that I'm doing. So I had to lower the graphics settings to high or high end instead of ultra. I actually don't see much difference, to be honest. Alright, here's our run-up area. On the left, just before runway 20, so we'll pull in there. Completely idle on the throttle now. We'll just grind to a gentle halt over here. Pop open the checklist, and first things first, parking brake is now set, so I can come off my toe brake. Oh, thank goodness. Mixture, fully rich, which it is. Prop RPM lever, max RPM, which it is. Throttles set to 2000 RPM, so we're going to raise the power here. That'll do. 2000 RPM. Now we're going to switch the mags. 2 mags obviously in the aircraft. We're looking for no more than 150 RPM decrease, but also note where you get with the left and right magnetos, because you need to have no more than 50 RPM difference between the two. So left mag, you see it drops from 2000 to, let's say, 1920. Back onto both, should come back up to 2000. Now the right mag drops to 1920, 1930. And it should come back up to 2000. Those two are correct. Magnetos now on both, which they are. Check the vacuum gauge is working. That one, which it is. Oil pressure and temperature. Oil pressure is in the green, temperature is in the green. Checked. Ammeter. Here's the ammeter. The way we test that is put some load through it. Or not. We're going to reduce load. You can see it moving, so that's fine. Annunciators. Test them. Yep, all our lights light up. Prop is currently full forward, so we're going to exercise it back to full back. Watch the RPM drop, and then bring it back again. That's good. Whoops. Alternate air is still off. Aux boost pump now, the fuel pump goes off. Fuel pressure is in the green, that's all checked. Engine idle should be 600, 650 RPM. I think on this particular Arrow it's a little bit higher than that, but let's see. I've got the throttles all the way now back to the stop. So there's 900 and coming back 800. It should maybe reach 700 RPM in this particular aircraft. Yep. So that's good, and then back up to 1200 RPM. A little bit too much. And you're holding at 1200 or 1000, 1 to 1200 RPM in order to not foul the plugs on the ground, which the Just Flight Arrow does simulate. So checked and checked. Next we have the before takeoff checks. We'll do that. Might as well do that. Well, we'll talk to ATC and see if we can get clearance first of all.
Shore and Tower, Piper Golf. Bravo November Sierra Golf at runway 20 right, ready for departure IFR to Southampton.
Piper Golf. Bravo November Sierra Golf altimeter 29.9er 7 wind 09er 2 at 25. Cleared for takeoff runway 20 right.
Alright, we're clear for takeoff, so we'll acknowledge it and run through the checks here. So battery switch is on, alternator is on, all the lights on, like so. Landing lights is also on, boost RPM pump, so fuel pump comes back on. Good. Fuel selector, I've got that set with the EFB to let them manage it for me, so it's on the fullest tank. Engine gauges all look good. Mixture full rich, which it is. Prop max RPM, which it is. Flaps, we're not going to use flaps for takeoff today. Trims are set to neutral. Cabin door is closed and latched into the takeoff checklist. So, takeoff checklist. Throttle up. Hold our position on the runway. Rotate at 65, climb out at 78 knots. And then above 300 feet, then we want to accelerate to 89 knots. Simple enough. Let's go ahead and line up on the runway here. Oh, that rain seems to have got worse. Let's knock the parking brake off while we're here. No wipers in an Arrow. Which seems to be a bit of a design flaw to me. There's that grinding to a halt issue I had with the Just Flight Arrow. Now I've got to come off the power quite a lot. And find the runway, which I think is the next turn on the left. Yep. Back on the power before we grind to a halt once again. Now when you're raising the landing gear, you're going to brake first, then raise the landing gear and check that the gear unsafe light goes off. Maybe that's that flashing light that I can't get rid of. Here's a runway. There is an aircraft up there, but we do have clearance. So, increase the full power, rotate at 65 knots, accelerate to 78. Nice crosswind. That aircraft, whoa, is landing on this runway. And that wind is horrendous. Not the best takeoff in the world. Holy cow. And I am actually taking off into an aircraft. That's not cool. Alright, gear up. And on the brakes. My god. Thanks a lot, Microsoft Flight Sim. Now we want to be at 78 knots. So I'm going to trim this aircraft to climb. Absolutely horrendous conditions. The aircraft is getting blown around a lot.
Piper November Sierra Golf, contact present center on 118.475.
Alright. Oh,
Going to
I'm having a hard time trimming.
175 Piper November Sierra Golf.
Oh, the wind just pushed me massively sideways. Let's roll out here. This is horrendous. As in a huge challenge. Gosh, I want to see if I can get down here. So, nav and autopilot on, heading on. And we'll just manage the climb. So yeah, all of that is actually done. Climb checklist, not going to worry about that. And cruise and descent is next. Look at this. Absolutely horrendous flying conditions. Okay, we're going to stall, so nose down. Gosh, really fighting this aircraft here. So I think the takeaway already is don't fly the Arrow 3 in bad weather. We want to get 3,500 feet, at which point I will try to reduce power and level up and trim the aircraft for that. God, this is absolutely awful. Alright, there's my 3,500 feet, so bringing the power back, bringing the RPM back to about 24. There, and we'll set manifold pressure around the same. There. And we want to trim this, we're actually over 3,500 now, so we're going to bring it back down to 35. ATC is going to get very concerned, but they shouldn't have cleared me up to 14,000 anyway. And I'm just working the yoke now and the trim to try to get us in some form of stable profile. That's looking actually pretty good. At this point we can turn the landing light off. Turn the fuel pump off. Okay. We're still climbing, so more trim, more forward pressure. Let's get us back down to 3,500. Which is there. Let's see what happens now. See if the aircraft will hold itself. I'm trying to trim it frantically so that we can, I think relax is the wrong word, but really focus on course and everything else going on with the aircraft. So checking at this point, fuel pressure green, oil pressure green, oil temperature green, fuel pressure is good. The right tank seems to have a little bit more fuel. We're currently on the left tank, but it's auto switching. I'm not going to worry about it. Manifold pressure is good, fuel flow is good. We seem to be trimmed for level flight at 3,500 and we are on course. That was horrendous. 12 miles to go to Goodwood. Nope, we are dropping a little bit. A little bit of extra trim there. Probably a little bit too much extra trim there. Just pulling back on the yoke here. adjusting the aircraft's profile with just trim works in a jet, not so much in a little GA aircraft like an Aero. So really messing with pushing and pulling the yoke right now to try to get the aircraft stable, and then using trim to counteract the pressure I'm putting on the yoke. So this is all on the yoke there. A little bit of back pressure. Actually, no back pressure. I think we're good. It is going to bounce around a little bit. It's not going to hold exactly 3,500. It is going to bounce around, especially with these winds. Oh, I can see ground. Look at that. Not that it's clearing up, but that's nice. You can see the river. I guess that's the river Adur underneath me. A little low. I'm not going to worry about it too much. There are no crazy big hills nearby that I'm likely to collide with. The rain seems to have stopped at least, which is good. So maybe the weather is starting to clear now. This aircraft is a wonderful challenge in bad weather. Is there anything out of the windows at all? Yeah, you can see the misty ground underneath us through this low cloud. We're only about 7 miles away from Goodwood now, so this is probably Littlehampton, around about Littlehampton, and then Bognor Regis coming up, and Chichester as well. Not that you can see them at all. Oh, more rain. Looks like we caught the rain up. Let's see if I can just tease the aircraft up to 3,500. Just fingertip control on the yoke. Gently putting a tiny bit of pressure in there. Now I know as soon as I release this pressure it's going to go down. So I'm going to climb over 3,500. And hopefully we can get the aircraft stable at 3,500. Shouldn't need to adjust trim because we did have it trimmed for level flight at the current power settings. So just working the yoke right now. There we go. Still got a bit of pressure on it. You can see we're picking up speed now because we are descending, which is expected. And the hope is, right about now, our vertical speed will start to come back up. Here it comes. And we'll level off closer to 3,500. Got it. So you can see over here on the map, EGHR, that is Goodwood. So GWC or EGHR. EGHR is the airport, GWC is the VOR. So we're on course, we're going to get there in 3 miles. Not very long now, 13 miles total flight to go. It's going to be longer than that because we're going to fly the proper approach, I hope, if ATC will let us. Now we're in the cruise though, let's refer to the cruise checklist. Power as desired, got it. Mixture lean for altitude, well, don't really need to lean it this high. I could, but I'm not going to. Elevator trim is set, altimeters are all good. Next up is the approach. Landing light is actually still on. I'm going to leave that on. Nope, landing light's actually off. Oh gosh, you know what I need to do though? I missed that. Pitot heat needs to go on. Otherwise, you risk losing your airspeed indicator. Let's see how we're doing on the instruments. A little bit over 2,400 RPM. A little bit under 24 inches manifold pressure. So let's bring the RPM down. There we go. And let's increase a tiny amount the power. Which means I may need to retrim the aircraft now. We'll see. Alright, so we've turned now, we're heading towards SAM. 22 miles away. Remember, at SAM, we're going to switch over to VOR navigation rather than GPS. And the way we're going to do that is click on this CDI button. That changes GPS here from GPS to VLOC. We already have the radio set, and we already have the course set. That course, of course, being, look at the chart here, 038 until we're 7.2 miles away. And then we'll turn back, switch the radio over to the localizer, and land. Oh, it's really clearing up now. Coming out of that cloud, look. Beautiful. We can actually see where we're going. And Microsoft Flight Sim really showing us what it can do in terms of the graphics once again. Outstanding. autopilot in the Arrow is doing a great job. You don't have altitude control on the autopilot. It is a pretty basic autopilot, but it is following the nav route nicely. I'm really happy with that. We'll see what happens when I switch over to V-Lock as to whether it continues to do that. What I will do, though, we won't just switch to V-Lock, is let's pop one down here. We'll set a heading hold of 038 degrees. So once we hit SAM, we'll switch to heading hold. That will make the aircraft turn. It gives us time then to come up here, switch, make sure everything is good up here, switch this into V-Lock, and then switch back to nav mode. Take a look outside. Good for the thumbnail. Ooh, look. That is lush. There's the thumbnail, I think. I'm impressed with the Arrow so far, I really am. Just like I've done a wonderful job with this aircraft. I can't wait to see what A2A simulations do when they finally hit the platform, which hopefully isn't too far away. That's speculation, by the way, I don't know anything special. So 12 miles away, it seems a good point to end part 1 of this second flight in the Arrow. Stay tuned for part 2, when we'll hopefully fly the full approach, ATC permitting. I'll probably override ATC and just do it properly anyway. As always, my name is Frugal. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.